Nice to meet you. I'm Margaret, Richard's fiancée. Pleased to meet you. My first impression was that she's incredibly beautiful, and yet she's not pretentious at all and greets politely. That's why I didn't realize it then, that she was such a nasty person. Slept well. Yawning as I head to the living room, there's already someone there. The visitor is lounging on the sofa, casually using a mobile phone. Seeing her, I feel a growing sense of disgust inside. It's Margaret, my brother's wife. With no makeup, it seems like she's in her off mode today. Lisa, sleeping till this hour? You must have been up late playing games again. This is why neat, sir. Margaret, you're here. I'm not a neat, actually. What? Didn't you say you're always welcome to visit? Hearing Margaret say that, I sigh internally. Sure, I said that, but there's something called appropriate distance. Holding back what I want to say, I force a smile. Welcome, Margaret. Even though I say that, Margaret is no longer looking at me, absorbed in her mobile phone. Interesting. And so, with her occasional laughter, curious about what she's watching, "What are you looking at?" I asked. Margaret willingly shares. This? It's a refreshing comic. The protagonist gets cheated on, but gathers evidence and confronts her husband for a divorce. It's just desserts for his actions. Laughing, she shows me her mobile phone. As she explains, Margaret glances towards the kitchen. Mom is there, busy washing dishes. Seeing Mom busy, Margaret, with a frown, says, "By the way, where's the coffee and snacks? I've been waiting for them since I arrived. It's been over 30 minutes. I'm a guest, you know. Not serving coffee and snacks to a guest? What's that about?" Unbelievable. There's no common sense. Thinking about Margaret's words, I ponder. She's already married into the family. How long does she plan to act like a guest? Shouldn't she do such things herself? No. Before that, I wish she'd help Mom. As I'm thinking this, Mom looks back at us. Sorry, dear. I was going to prepare everything after finishing this. Can you wait a bit longer? Despite being spoken to like that, Mom responds with a calm smile. Just hurry up, please. Even in front of Mom's gentle demeanor, Margaret's haughty attitude doesn't change. Sighing, I stand beside Mom. Mom, let me help. Oh, Lisa, thank you. Could you please wipe the dishes then? Got it. Ideally, Margaret should be doing such chores, but there's a reason I can't be firm with her. I'll be on a solo assignment for a year and won't be able to come home. During that time, Margaret will be alone. If anything happens, can you help her out? Our parents' home is too far for her to rely on, and she only has our family to turn to. So, I'm sorry, but I'm counting on you. That's what my brother asked of me. Initially, I readily agreed, but once my brother left for his assignment, Margaret's attitude changed drastically. Her calm demeanor turned arrogant, her polite speech became rude, and the beautiful face I thought she had was completely different without makeup. Does my brother know the real face of Margaret? No, he doesn't. If he did, he wouldn't have married her. I'm amazed at how she deceived my brother. She must have been so eager to marry him because he works for a top company, skilled enough to become a manager at the young age of 28, a promising elite employee. Margaret, who was working part-time, aggressively pursued my brother. Initially, he had no such intentions, but eventually fell for her dedicated support, leading to their marriage. I watch Margaret, eating and drinking the coffee and snacks Mom prepared without a word of thanks. Her devotion to my brother was all a show, it seems. Ever since I married Richard, everyone's been jealous and bullying me, Margaret said, crying. I'm the breadwinner, so Margaret, you quit your job and rest. And my brother defended her. Since then, jobless Margaret enjoys shopping every day and often visits our house, leading a life of decadence. Despite this, Mom continues to treat her kindly. Okay, okay, she said. To an outsider, it might look like Mom is caring for a spoiled daughter. I find myself a bit jealous of their relationship. I wish Richard would come back soon. It's one more month until my brother returns from his assignment. I've endured Margaret's occasional invasions over this past month. Our house has always been a gathering place for many people. Today is Christmas. Every Christmas, our relatives gather at our house. My brother is supposed to return home today. As the relatives almost all arrive and the house gets lively, the doorbell rings. Oh, has Richard arrived? Heard his wife is a beauty. I wonder what she's like. I'm eager to see her. As the relatives excitedly anticipate, I hope they won't be disappointed. Then, from behind, it's been a while. I hear my brother's voice. Richard! Lisa! How are you? Still cooped up in your room all the time? Stop saying it like that. I'm fine. As I'm having this exchange with my brother, Margaret appears from behind him. They had come home together as a married couple. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Margaret, Richard's wife. Pleased to meet you. Margaret, in her full beauty mode with perfect makeup, catches the relative's eyes. I remember I used to be just as impressed by her. Thinking this, I too take a seat at the banquet table. The table is laden with dishes Mom and I prepared, along with dishes brought by the relatives. At the center of these dishes are the main features of the banquet meal, steaks and hors d'oeuvres. I bought these after Mom asked me to, and luckily, steaks from the supermarket these days are delicious and affordable, so I ended up buying plenty. It's great because it allows the relatives to eat without holding back. As Margaret sits down and sees the meal, she covers her mouth and giggles. Margaret, what's up? Richard asks, to which Margaret waves her hands in a flustered manner. Oh, nothing. I just laugh because I'm so happy to see such a lavish meal. It looks so delicious. Hearing Margaret say this, the relatives let out sighs of admiration. She's happy to eat the food we made and brought here. What a lovely thing to say. I wish you had married my son. Margaret seems thoroughly pleased with their words. I'm filled with the urge to reveal her true nature, but seeing Mom's calm demeanor, I decided to hold back for now. Margaret keeps her true self hidden until the relatives leave. She's deceived my brother for over a year, so this must be easy for her. After seeing off the relatives with a smile, it's as if Margaret removes a mask, instantly switching from her smile to an expressionless face. Then, I'm tired, she sighs, holding back my urge to retort, Mom and I are the ones who are tired. I check my mobile phone before starting to clean up with Mom. As we're cleaning, sorry, I need to make a call. I'll help with the cleanup after. My brother approaches from behind. Margaret responds to him with a beaming smile. We'll handle this, Richard. Don't worry about it. And her pretense of cleaning up. Showing a tender smile, my brother leaves with his mobile phone. Once he's gone, Margaret returns to her usual expressionless face. What was with today's meal? Margaret's sudden complaint stops Mom and me in our tracks. Just look at the unappealing dishes. It was so hard to keep myself from laughing. Why weren't there pizzas or Caesar salads at a family gathering party? I thought the dishes everyone brought were delicious, I said. Margaret laughed at me mockingly. Typical neat. You have no taste. Even if we overlook these unappealing dishes. She looked at the empty steak packaging on the table. Did you buy this steak from the supermarket? Who bought it? I did. They were affordable, so I bought a lot. It's from the supermarket, but it was tasty, right? I said with a laugh. Margaret, frowning, picked up the package and pointed at it. Are you kidding me? You bought such cheap steaks for my visit? Meats really have no sense. Margaret sighed deeply and continued. Normally, you should have high-quality steaks for Christmas. Competent. Saying this, Margaret threw the empty package at me. It wasn't painful, but her arrogant behavior left Mom and me speechless. "Is that your true nature?" a disappointed voice said. It was my brother. Surprised, Margaret turned around. "Richard, the phone call? How long have you been there?" Margaret rushed to him with a forced smile. My brother took out his cell phone. "The call was from Lisa." "What?" Margaret looked at me. "What do you mean, Lisa?" Margaret asked, trembling with anger. "I'm sorry, I must have dialed by mistake. I sent a message right after to apologize and asked Richard to come back quietly since we were focusing on cleaning up. And you came back right away, Richard," I said, smiling at my brother. Margaret must be panicking now. If Richard came back right away, he must have seen Margaret's true nature from the start to the end. "Margaret, what was that way of speaking?" my brother asked angrily. Margaret shook her head. "No, Richard, you got it all wrong." "How is it wrong? To call the delicious food everyone, including Mom and Lisa, worked hard to make unappealing dishes? That's very rude." "I didn't mean it in a bad way. I meant it in a good way, like it's calming." Margaret desperately tried to explain, but my brother's gaze was cold. Then he said the words to Margaret. "We're getting a divorce." "That's so cruel. Haven't I been supporting you? You can't manage without me." "I appreciate that you supported me when I was busy, but if your support means treating others as nuisances, then I don't need such support. I heard you've been bullying other female employees." "That's a lie. Trust me. Do you think I would do such a thing?" Margaret looked up at my brother with pleading eyes, but now that her true nature was revealed, these tactics would no longer work on him. My brother sighed as he looked at Margaret. "I married you, thinking that even if those rumors were true, your dedication to supporting me was genuine. But if you're going to speak ill of my family, I can't be with you," said my brother coldly. Margaret's demeanor changed drastically when she realized no one was on her side. "Fine then. Act all high and mighty because you're a manager. You're just an ordinary employee. I'll demand alimony twice your annual salary for being unfairly divorced when I did nothing wrong." My brother, witnessing Margaret's true nature, sighed in exasperation. This time, Mom started to speak. "Do you really believe you did nothing wrong?" "Of course! I've been maintaining Richard's home. I can't forgive being betrayed like this." "It's you who betrayed," Mom said, pulling a paper from her apron pocket. She showed it to Margaret. It was a photo of Margaret, cozily arm in arm with an unfamiliar man. "Why?" "I was curious about your visits, Margaret. You dressed up on some days and not on others, so I followed you when you were dressed up, and I found out you were cheating." And with Mom's calm smile not reaching her eyes, "It's finally over." Margaret panicked at the sight of Mom's smile, devoid of joy. "Wait, I'm sorry. I'll apologize properly. I really am sorry." "You're apologizing to the wrong person. And even if you apologize, I doubt Richard would forgive you. Besides, Richard is not just an ordinary employee." "What do you mean?" Margaret was about to ask for clarification when Dad arrived home. "I'm back. Finally done with work. Now I can start my Christmas vacation. Have all the relatives left?" Dad, in his suit, was surprised to see Richard. "Richard! You're back already? How was my company? Did you learn a lot?" Margaret was shocked by Dad's words. "What's Joseph's job?" "You didn't know? Joseph is a business owner. Richard is his successor." Margaret, clearly unaware, was initially surprised, then contorted her face. "I didn't know this. Why didn't you tell me? And Richard isn't the president of your company, right? So he's just an ordinary employee? Dad, confused but trying to explain, said, Well, the company Richard works at is a subsidiary of mine. He's working there now. But the plan is to gradually familiarize him with my company, the parent company, and eventually pass on the presidency to him. At this explanation, Margaret's face showed sheer despair. I was going to tell you eventually, but we're done. It's a pity, my brother finally said, bringing Margaret to the brink of tears. No, you can't mean that. Betty, you won't agree, right? You've always welcomed me warmly. You've always been kind to me. You're on my side, aren't you? Margaret, with tears streaming down her face, turned to Mom for support. Mom, who had been calm throughout, suddenly became stern. Then, Never show your face here again. Even Mom's gentle nature had reached its limit, and she said this with an angry face and a low voice. It had been a long time since I'd seen Mom angry. For Margaret, it must have been the first time seeing Mom like this. Utterly defeated, Margaret collapsed to the floor. Why? How could this happen? She murmured in despair. Thus ended the marriage between my brother and Margaret. That's the story, I explained to the woman wearing glasses in front of me. So, the ending is, the protagonist, thought to be a NEET, turns out to be the author of the manga Margaret often read. The woman in glasses, looking over several sheets of paper, said this. Yes, it's a twist of seeming to be a NEET, but actually, kind of revelation. That's great. It was refreshing to read, as always. I'm glad to hear that. Is everything okay for this submission? Yes, I'll submit it. Looking forward to your next work. Great job as always, Lisa. The woman left with the manuscript in hand. As I watched her leave, Mom spoke from behind the door. Has she left? Can I clean up the teacups? Please do. Mom entered the room, her face calm as ever. What was the story about this time? As she collected the teacups, I looked at her and replied, It's about how the kindest people can be the scariest when angered.